Good evening, my friends. Tonight I need to tell you something that might disturb you at first, but will ultimately set you free. Everything you think you are waiting for has already happened. Not in some distant future timeline, not in an alternate reality. Right now, in this very moment, the version of you who has your desire is not hoping for it. They are living it. And here is what nobody tells you. The only reason you are still waiting is because you keep treating it like it is coming instead of recognizing it has already arrived. Tonight, you are going to learn the single most powerful technique Neville Goddard ever taught. It is called living from the end, but not the way most people misunderstand it. This is not about pretending. This is not about faking confidence or forcing yourself to feel good. This is about a fundamental shift in how you relate to time itself. And once you understand this, once you truly grasp what I am about to reveal, you will never approach manifestation the same way again. Are you ready? Then close your eyes for just a moment. I want you to think about something you desire right now. Maybe it is money. Maybe it is love. Maybe it is healing, success, recognition. Whatever it is, bring it to mind. Now I want you to notice something. Notice how you are thinking about it. Are you thinking about it as something that will happen, something that might happen, something you hope will happen? Notice that feeling. That is the feeling of separation. That is the feeling of waiting. And that feeling right there is the only thing standing between you and your manifestation. Because here is the truth that changes everything. Consciousness does not know the difference between what has happened, what is happening, and what will happen. Consciousness only knows what you are aware of being right now. When you think about your desire as something in the future, consciousness registers that as a statement of current reality. And that current reality is I am someone who does not have this yet. I am someone who is waiting. I am someone who is separate from my desire. And so consciousness, which is always faithful, always obedient, continues to create circumstances that match that state of awareness. You remain in waiting. You remain in separation, not because your desire is not ready for you, but because you keep affirming through your inner conversations, through your feeling state, that it has not happened yet. Let me show you what most people get wrong about living from the end. They think living from the end means imagining their desire and trying to sustain a feeling of happiness about it. So they imagine having the money, and they try to feel excited. They imagine the relationship, and they try to feel grateful. But then reality crashes back in. The bank account still shows the same number. The other person still has not called. And immediately, they fall back into the state of waiting. They think to themselves, well, I imagined it. I felt good about it. Now I just need to wait for it to show up in my physical world. And this right here, is where manifestation dies. Because the moment you start waiting, you have left the state of the wish fulfilled. The moment you start looking for evidence, you have admitted to consciousness that it has not happened yet. And consciousness obeys. It keeps it in the future. It keeps you in the state of waiting, forever waiting, forever hoping, forever separated from what you desire. So, what is the answer? How do you actually live from the end? Here is the technique. And I want you to understand it precisely because one small misunderstanding here will keep you trapped. Living from the end does not mean you imagine your desire and then go about your day waiting for it to appear. Living from the end means you collapse time, you take the feeling of already having it, and you make that feeling your present tense identity right now. Not I will have it. Not I am going to have it. I have it. It is done. It already happened. And consciousness does not argue with this. Consciousness does not say, but I do not see the evidence. Consciousness simply says, you are aware of being this. So this is what I will continue to manifest for you. Let me give you a precise example. A man came to me. He said, I have been trying to manifest $10,000 for 6 months. I visualize it every day. I feel grateful for it. I affirm that it is coming. But nothing has changed. My bank account is still empty. What am I doing wrong? I said, everything you just described to me is wrong. Every single word you spoke revealed your problem. You said you are trying to manifest it. That means you do not have it yet. You said it is coming. That means it is still in the future. You said your bank account is still empty. That means you are looking at your current circumstances as proof of your reality. You are not living from the end. You are living from the middle. You are living in the state of trying to get somewhere instead of being there. He said, but I do not understand. How can I feel like I have $10,000 when my bank account shows I do not? I said, that is the wrong question. The right question is, how would I feel if I checked my bank account right now and saw $10,000 sitting there? What would be different about my inner state? Would I be excited? No. Excitement ampli surprise. If you truly had it, there would be no surprise. Would I be grateful? Maybe for a moment. But then it would just become normal. I would move through my day with a quiet sense of sufficiency. I would make decisions differently. I would speak to people differently. I would carry myself differently. Not because I am trying to act rich, but because I am no longer operating from the energy of lack. That, I said, is the state you must occupy, not the state of imagining you have it while secretly knowing you do not, but the state of actually being the person who has it, the state where it is so real to you internally that the external evidence becomes irrelevant. He said, but how do I do that when everything around me is showing me I do not have it? I said, this is the critical point. You do not do that by ignoring your circumstances. You do that by recognizing your circumstances are always showing you your past assumptions. Your current bank account is not showing you your present reality. It is showing you what you assumed last week, last month, last year. It is old news. It is an echo. And the moment you treat it as current truth, you lock yourself into repeating it. So here is what you must do. Starting tonight, you stop treating your desire as something you are waiting for. You stop checking for evidence. You stop asking when it will come. Instead, you make a single assumption. It already happened. Not it is going to happen. It already happened. And you live your entire inner life from that assumption. When a thought comes that says, I do not have it yet, you do not argue with it. You do not try to convince yourself. You simply redirect to the assumption, it already happened. I already have it. This is already done. When doubt comes, and it will come, you do not engage with it. You do not try to resolve it. You simply return to the assumption within 30 seconds. It is done. When you are tempted to check your bank account for evidence, you stop yourself and you say, I already know what is there. It is done. This is not denial. This is not pretending. This is consciousness training. You are training your awareness to live in the state of the wish fulfilled so consistently that it becomes your natural resting place. Now, let me tell you what happens when you do this correctly. At first, it will feel unnatural. Your mind will resist. It will say, but this is not true. I do not actually have it. You will feel the pull to check for evidence, to look for signs, to worry about how it will happen. This is normal. This is your consciousness trying to return to its old familiar state. But every time you catch yourself falling back into waiting, into questioning, into doubt, and every time you redirect back to the assumption within 30 seconds, something shifts. You are not just imagining anymore. You are actually reconditioning your consciousness. You are building a new identity. And here is what most people do not realize. Consciousness does not care about your physical circumstances. Consciousness only cares about what you are aware of being. When you are aware of being someone who has your desire, consciousness begins to orchestrate everything, every thought, every impulse, every circumstance, to match that state. Not because you are forcing it, not because you are trying to make it happen, but because that is how consciousness operates. It is always conforming your external world to your internal assumptions. Always, without exception. The problem is most people keep changing their assumption every 5 minutes. They assume they have it for a moment. Then they assume they do not have it when they see their circumstances. They assume it is done. Then they assume it is not done when it does not show up on their timeline. And so consciousness keeps creating a mixed result. A little bit of movement, then back to nothing. 1 step forward, 2 steps back, because their assumption keeps changing. But when you hold one assumption, and you hold it consistently, and you refuse to let circumstances shake you out of it, consciousness has no choice but to manifest it. Not eventually, not someday, right now. Because in consciousness, time does not exist the way you think it does. There is only now, and in this now, you are either occupying the state of having it or occupying the state of waiting for it. There is no in between. Let me tell you about a woman who came to me after trying to manifest a relationship for 3 years. She said, "I have tried everything. I have visualized my perfect partner. I have made lists. I have done affirmations. I have let go. I have felt grateful. Nothing works. I am starting to think I am not meant to have love." I asked her one question. When you imagine being in this relationship, what happens after you finish imagining? She said, "I feel good for a while. Then I look around and realize I am still alone. And I start wondering when it will happen, how it will happen, if it will happen." I said, "There is your problem. You are imagining from the state of not having. You are treating the visualization as a technique to get something you do not have instead of an entry point into the state of already having it." She said, "I do not understand the difference." I said, "When you finish imagining, do you feel like someone who just remembered they are in a loving relationship? Or do you feel like someone who just finished a mental exercise and now has to go back to being single?" She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I feel like I finished an exercise." I said, "Exactly. That is why it has not manifested. Because you are not actually living in the state. You are visiting the state for 10 minutes a day and then leaving it." So, I gave her one instruction. For the next 7 days, I want you to stop visualizing altogether. Instead, I want you to spend every day acting as if you are already in the relationship you desire. Not externally. You do not need to talk to an imaginary person or pretend in front of others. Internally. When you wake up in the morning, instead of feeling that familiar loneliness, you remind yourself, "I am loved. I am in a beautiful relationship. This is already my reality." When you go through your day and a thought comes that says, "I am single," you immediately redirect, "No, I am in a relationship." It is done. When you go to sleep at night, you do not imagine meeting someone, you imagine being with them. You fall asleep feeling the reality of their presence, not as something you hope for, but as something that already is. She said, "But what if I do not believe it?" I said, "Belief is not required. Assumption is required. You do not have to believe it feels true. You just have to assume it is true and refuse to assume anything else." She agreed to try. For 7 days, she lived entirely from the assumption that she was already in the relationship. And here is what happened. On day 3, she told me something shifted. She stopped feeling desperate. She stopped checking dating apps obsessively. She stopped feeling incomplete, not because she convinced herself, but because she was occupying a different state. She was no longer operating from lack. On day 5, she noticed her inner conversation had completely changed. Thoughts like, "Will I ever meet someone?" stopped appearing. And when they did appear, they felt foreign, like they did not belong to her anymore. On day 7, she said she felt a quiet certainty. She could not explain it logically, but she knew it was done. 2 weeks later, she met someone. But here is the important part. She did not meet them because the universe finally delivered her desire. She met them because she had become the person who was already in a relationship. Her energy was different. Her behavior was different. Her expectations were different. And circumstances rearranged themselves to match her new state. This is how the law works. Not through magic, through identity. Now, let me reveal to you the most important part of this teaching. The part that most people never hear. When you live from the end, you are not trying to manifest something external. You are recognizing that it already exists in consciousness. And consciousness is the only reality. Your bank account, your relationships, your health, your circumstances. These are not reality. These are reflections. They are shadows cast by consciousness. And shadows always follow the object that casts them. They do not lead it. When you understand this, when you truly grasp this, you stop waiting for your external world to change so you can feel fulfilled. You start occupying the state of fulfillment now. And the external world, which has no choice, begins to reflect that state back to you. This is not a technique. This is a law. It operates whether you believe it or not, whether you understand it or not. The only question is, are you using it consciously or unconsciously? Right now, in this very moment, you are living from some state. You are occupying some version of yourself. And whatever state you are occupying, consciousness is faithfully, perfectly, continuously externalizing that state into your circumstances. If you are occupying the state of waiting, you will continue to wait. If you are occupying the state of lack, you will continue to experience lack. But if you occupy the state of the wish fulfilled, if you live as though it is already done, consciousness has no choice but to manifest it. Not because you hoped hard enough, not because you visualized perfectly, but because you became it. And what you are, you experience. So, here is your practice for the next 7 days. Choose one desire. Just one. It could be anything. And for 7 days, you are going to live entirely from the assumption that you already have it. Not that you are going to have it. Not that it is coming. You have it. It is done. It already happened. Every morning when you wake up, before you check your phone, before you look at your circumstances, you remind yourself, this is done. I already have it. Throughout your day, anytime a thought comes that contradicts this assumption, you redirect within 30 seconds, not through force, not through argument, just a simple return to the assumption, it is done. When you go to sleep at night, you do not imagine your desire coming to you. You imagine from the end. You fall asleep in the feeling of already having it, as if you are remembering it, not creating it. And here is the critical instruction. During these 7 days, you do not check for evidence. You do not look for signs. You do not ask when or how. You do not monitor your progress. You simply live in the state. Because checking for evidence is an admission that it has not happened yet. And that admission throws you out of the state. For 7 days, your only job is to occupy the state of the wish fulfilled so consistently that it becomes your new normal. That is all. Nothing else. And if you do this, if you truly commit to this for 7 days, you will discover something that will change your life forever. The state becomes natural. It stops feeling like pretending. It stops feeling like effort. It just becomes who you are. And when that happens, when you are no longer trying to live from the end, but you are actually living from the end, Manifestation is not a question anymore. It is inevitable. Because consciousness always, always manifests what you are aware of being. Let me close with this. You are not waiting for your desire. Your desire is waiting for you. It is waiting for you to stop treating it like a future event and start recognizing it as a present reality. It is waiting for you to stop living from the state of wanting and start living from the state of having. And the moment you do that, the moment you collapse time and assume it is already done, everything changes. Not someday, not when conditions are right. Now, this very moment, because in consciousness, which is the only reality, it is already done. It has always been done. You are just now becoming aware of it. So, walk out of here tonight knowing that your desire is not coming. It is already here. You already have it. And all that remains is for you to occupy that state so completely, so naturally, so effortlessly, that your external world has no choice but to reflect it back to you. 7 days, that is all I am asking. 7 days of living entirely from the assumption of the wish fulfilled. And watch what happens. Not to your circumstances, to you, because when you change, everything changes. It always does. It always has. It always will. Thank you. And good evening. Until we meet again in consciousness, remember this. You are not becoming someone who has your desire. You already are that person. You are just now remembering it. Live from that memory. And watch as your entire world rearranges itself to match. Assume it is done, because it is. Before I leave you tonight, I want you to truly understand what these 7 days will teach you. This is not just about manifesting one specific desire. This is about discovering who you really are. You see, most people spend their entire lives believing they are the person reflected in their circumstances. They look at their bank account and say, I am poor. They look at their relationships and say, I am unloved. They look at their body and say, I am unhealthy. But this is backwards. You are not the person your circumstances say you are. Your circumstances are simply reflecting the person you have been assuming yourself to be. When you commit to these 7 days of living from the end, you are not just training yourself to manifest something external. You are discovering that you have always had the power to choose who you are, not based on what has happened to you, not based on what others have said about you, not based on what your current reality shows you, but based purely on what you assume to be true about yourself right now. In this moment, this is the greatest freedom you will ever experience. The freedom to choose your state of being regardless of external conditions. And once you taste this freedom, once you realize that you are not trapped by your circumstances, that you can occupy any state you choose simply by assuming it, your entire relationship with life transforms. You stop being a victim. You stop being a beggar. You stop waiting for permission from the external world to feel fulfilled. You become the operant power in your own life. And when you become the operant power, when you recognize that consciousness is the only reality and everything else is just a reflection, you realize something profound. You were never powerless. You were just living in the wrong assumption. So, take these teachings seriously. Not because I am asking you to believe me, but because you can test this for yourself. 7 days. One desire. Live entirely from the assumption that it is already done. And see what happens. That is all. Walk in your assumption. Live from the end. And know that it is already finished in consciousness. Good evening, my friends.